Right, welcome back, Bonneville number 10. This is just going to be the final little bit of dress up stuff before we get involved in paintwork in the future, and that's the next little kind of raft of projects on this, but there's other stuff in between. So this is one of these. It's when you have a look at your clutch area, we had this little shopping spree with tech bike parts with the exhaust and the shocks and so on, and while we were at it with the tank cap as well, we got them to put a few other accessories in the box for us, which are not bad value at all, and I think really make the bike look a lot better. And again, this is typical when you start looking at the standard stuff you get and the stuff you can get. It makes me wonder why Triumph in the first place don't put them on. But if you have a close in look down here, this is the clutch actuation cable area down the bottom into the casing. And there's two items here. Firstly, this actuator, this top of this arm, it looks on top, that blob of weld there looks like I welded it. You know, it just really is nasty, and it's galvanised, stamped out tin. Not nice at all, but it's there, and that's what you get. And this bracket as well, which kind of guides the cable in. It's again a piece of stamped out steel. You can even see the chop marks where it's been chopped out by a big, probably a fly press affair sort of thing. And it's just horrible. And there's a couple of options. This is a kit available from Tech Bike Parts, 3 pieces like that. You get the little bracket, machine billet, which is really nice. You get this rather nice little cap which goes over that, which kind of covers it up. They come in black or silver. Chose silver just as a bit of an accent to the engine rather than keeping it all black. And this little boot. Now I think that out of all these parts, they're for dress up purposes, but this is a sensible idea because that's how they come, completely with a naked cable. And although there's a little rubber cap over the end to stop water going up your cable, that isn't going to be as good as a nice gaiter on there. So that's going to get added as well, which all comes in the kit. So let's take this off first of all, get the cable free and fit it all on. Alright, first of all, take your cable and back off all the slack on your cable itself so that it's free enough to move around. And that's just 2 12mm adjuster nuts either side of the bracket. As soon as they're free, spin them both out of the way. Now if you spin the rear one right the way back, front one's got to come off, and you can pull that forward enough to push the lever back and then pull the little hammer out of its little place in there. There's a little hammer in there, which is how that just hooks in as standard. There it is, and that just boogies around on its own. Just leave that there, it's quite safe. So then that comes off the end of the cable. Don't need that. And so does that secondary adjuster nut. Don't worry, we're going to reset with the adjustment at the end, and then that can come completely out of its little hole like that. Then we're going to swap this out, as they say, and that's just 2 8mm. Water in your cable, look.
Oops.
That's rainwater, I guess, isn't it? Right, now these are just the casing bolts, they're 8mm. Put those out, and then take them out of the way. Now just going to show you this before we go any further. That's the reason we're swapping it. It's a no-brainer, isn't it, really? Look at that.
Oh.
Bit of stamped out junk. And then we've got a lovely piece.
What are you doing?
It's rubbish, isn't it?
It's lovely, the new one.
Again, twice the weight of that. Alright, get ready to reassemble this. Just orientate so that the slant of the 2 holes, or the slant of the hole, is the same as the factory one, and you can see because it's kind of mounted at the bottom. Now, what I will do with this, which is quite important, is I'm going to put a little dab of thread lock on these, because very often I've found these loose, and I surmise, in my opinion, that the reason I've often found these loose is that this bracket gets pulled on by the clutch cable itself, and it doesn't hurt to just pop a little tiny bit of thread lock on. Can you imagine when this cable is bolted in like that, or when this bracket's bolted in, beg your pardon, you put the cable in place. Now the cable comes to here. There's a pulling between the two. This is a bearing bracket. it actually takes the weight of the cable coming from the front. So this bracket's being pulled on in that direction all the time. And I believe that if these aren't Loctited in, it loosens them off. And very often, even these just now, they weren't even wrist tight. So I just put a little bit of thread lock and do them up to 10 Newton meters. Now my torque wrench starts at 10. I don't like doing bolts up with this big torque wrench at 10 newtons. It's not enough. I don't like anything less than about 20. It starts at 10 and the spring's almost off. So I don't like that. So what I'm going to do with these is pop them in like that, and just with literally hand tight, just do them up reasonably. That's it. Just wrist tight like that. No tight. Don't go leaning on them, because obviously they're an aluminium thread with a steel bolt. But get them even. Just do one after the other like that. One, 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 one. And you'll feel a point where they're both about the same. And that's it. And remember, you've put thread lock on them. Now, I want to talk about thread lock before I get flamed in the comments here. You wouldn't normally thread lock that casing in. If anything, you put anti-seize in there. But to a degree, I'm going to make this statement because I've said it before. Thread lock is almost a version of anti-seize, because anti-seize goes on a thread in order that it doesn't corrode. You don't get that electrolytic corrosion between aluminium and steel, that white powdery corrosion that actually locks it together and seizes it up. So when you go to undo it, it snaps off. Because the thread lock forms a plastic seal, a glued plastic seal between the two metal surfaces, it stops that corrosion from developing. So it stops it coming undone, and at the same time means that you can undo it when you want to. Thread lock gives you control. It's as simple as that. So thread lock them in, but just a little blob. And don't use the red stuff. Somebody asked me the other day, what's the difference between red and blue thread lock? Well, a world of hurt, my friend. It really is. Because red thread lock is permanent. It's like welding it in. Once you put it in with red thread lock, you'll never ever get it out again, except with a drill bit. Okay, so that's in place. Cable back through. Just guide it through on its own. And give that a little bit of pre-wind. I'm going to put this nut back in place, and then that's locked back in as it should be. Now if I wanted to, I can put that cable on. Hang on a sec, just get that done up. Just fiddling on the end there. Right, that's it. Now that will be adjusted in a minute, because there's a big issue here I want to talk about. If you notice just now where a load of water came out the bottom of this cable, I want to show you how that's happened and why it's happened. So this little rubber debris on the end, that's the original one. You still add this, even though you're putting this gaiter on, you still have this as well, because belt and braces, why not? There we go. A little bit of WD-40 on that, just to lube it in place. Right, now that's fitted back in place as far as that's concerned. But before we go any further, I'm just going to add this as well, just to give it an extra little bit of weatherproofing for next time. And that shouldn't be too difficult. Pop that over there. Gently does it. That's it. And just pop that through the end. Obviously it's quite a tight fit over the end, and that fits nice. There we go. Okay, now that can be represented. Right, that's all working. Now to set this up, final little piece is this little billet machined cover cap, which I think is much nicer than this ugly piece of galvanised pressed out steel, because it covers everything up quite nicely. And all it is 2 grub screws underneath there. And the simplest way to make sure you don't lose the thing is just take the grub screw out to its extent. So there's a big sort of divot down there. And just pop a little bit of your thread lock down in the hole. Not much, just a tiny little amount. Come on, running out. That's it, just a little amount like that. And then as you screw the grub screw in, it will pick it all up. And it will lock it in place for you. But again, it won't get corroded. So pop that on. It just covers up, and the 2 grub screws just grab either side of this body here. They don't latch into anything, they don't locate, they just literally squeeze. And all that is a little tiny Allen key, which is right there. and put it on, and then tap it against the back of the adjuster there so it's firmly in one place. And screw them in equidistant, because then you'll get a nice central fit. And both of them will be roughly flush with the surface of the billet. Here we are, simple as that. And they won't come undone, again, they won't corrode in place. You can do them up reasonably stiff because it is billet, it's a good quality aluminium. And there we are, fitted and permanent. Now just to adjust your cable, this is a really important thing. The prescribed adjustment for your cable is this joint here. So it's the gap between the clamp casing and the actual lever itself. That gap that you see opening and closing, there between the black and the silver needs to be 3mm before it feels any pressure. Now I want to talk about this before we set this up down below, because as you saw when I dropped the cable off, some water poured out the end of it, and that's pretty typical of when people do this. Come over the top, man. This is the spring-loaded one-handed adjuster. So it's got a little springy thing there that bears against these knurled teeth, and you adjust it in and out to give yourself slack as and when you need it. And the problem that that has is when it's in that position, some idiot set it there. Obviously this groove, which is there for getting the cable out and fitting a new one, is uppermost. And it lets the water in onto the cable, flows down inside the cable, and as you saw, it fills it up. So when you set this, always set this open end at the bottom. Even if you've got a regular one of these, which is the two separate pieces, the screw there with the knurled locking wheel, always set the open edges at the bottom so that when the rain comes, it doesn't go down inside the cable and corrode it. The cables have got a plastic coating over the steel inner, and that plastic coating rubs against the inner part of the case itself, and as the years go by it rubs it off, and then it exposes the steel, and when there's water in there that corrodes and the cable is knackered. So what we're looking to do is get this set roughly in the middle, so you've got, if you can, an equidistant amount of thread front and back, or more or less. So if you need that adjustment, it's there. Before you set that in place, and then come up the top and just keep messing about with it. Screw that in a bit. Bit too much. Always again downwards with that split. Here we are. And then set the bottom up by turning this cable, these two cable adjusters, and setting them up. This is all part of your servicing as well. You set this by backing the lock nut off and just turn that back, and that lengthens that and adjusts it correct. A bit too much, back off a bit. That's it. So when you've got the cable set exactly right, just nut them up against each other so that that's held absolutely firmly in that bracket. It's not going anywhere. And I think just a bit of bully, since that rubber is all dusty and powdery, pop a bit of WD on it and just moisten that up a bit so it looks nice. Bit of BS in it, eh? There you go, it's nice now. And also a little bit of WD-40, these rubber gaiters and stuff, it never hurts to give them a little wipe over with something like that, or 3-in-1 oil now and again, just because it keeps the rubber from perishing. Can't do it on tyres, but you can do it on stuff like this. There we go. And that goes neatly over there at the end. Look at that. There you are.
Wow, it looks lovely.
It's better, doesn't it? Now, doesn't that look a lot nicer? If you go back to the beginning of the video and check that out, doesn't that look a whole lot nicer than it used to? Really nice little piece of kit. Now, price of this little kit from Tech is $39.99. Is it too much? No, I don't think so. It's billet aluminium. Go try buying billet aluminium parts from your Harley dealer and you'll soon see what I mean. I think you need a small mortgage and sell your children to buy anything billet. And these are made in-house, anodised. They do a black if you like. You can order them. I don't think they've got any stock in a minute, but that I think is a great addition. It really finishes it off. And again, for the life of me, I can't understand why Triumph just don't take the trouble to put a billet one of these on, or even if they made a cast zinc one or something, rather than this. I mean, that looks like something from a 1970s bicycle. It's just hideous. It's a bit of stamped and bent tin. But there we go. That's the way it goes in manufacturing. So that's the series for now. We've done pretty much everything that we were going to do in this little spending spree, madam. And that's it for now. We're going to do some paint work. I think the side panels have got to go black, don't you, Pen? I think that will just give the bike a little bit of a darker look. Possibly some side panels here, those rubber knee pads. That'll look quite nice. It'll darken down and take away some of the gold. But there we go. That's all for the future. The bash plate itself is just an aftermarket one, but it's doing the job and it'll be fine. Okay, so there we are. Take it easy, ride safe. Thanks for watching all 10 of these. It's been great fun. Now we're just going to enjoy some riding. Hey, Pen?
Yep.
Go for a ride?
Yes.
See you next time.